Welcome to Mediocre Gaming, and today we're playing Deep Rock Galactic. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Zero. Let's get to it. So today we're doing the deep dive, codenamed Engineer's Void. But before we get to that, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell to be notified of all future episodes as soon as they go live. So let's get into it. Stage 1 of the deep dive has Exploder Infestation, as well as Dreadnoughts and Mini-Mules. So, of course, as you know, every deep dive is a little bit different. Every dive is a little bit different. And this week is no different from any other week. So this time around, you gotta look for Dreadnoughts, which you can find on your terrain scanner. We came across a Nemesis. They show up even if you don't have rival presence as a modifier, which is a little bit weird because it kind of feels like you should have rival presence. The black box, you're probably going to come across it as you're delving deeper into the cave. You might even find it as you're going to your very first Dreadnought, which is what we did here. And of course, that is a zone control where you want to have as many people in the bubble as possible. The faster it'll go, the more people are in it. The fewer people, the slower it'll go, and if nobody's in the bubble, then you start losing progress quite rapidly. So have everyone in there to get this portion of the stage 1 objective done quickly. You're going to have a whole bunch, for whatever reason, you're going to have a whole bunch of critters coming after you. And it doesn't matter if they get inside the bubble, other than they're going to attack you. So it won't change your progress, it won't impede your progress, but they might try to impede your life. So once that's done, move on. Now the Dreadnoughts, as I said before, you can find them on the terrain scanner. You can go and, if you have a driller, you can go right to it, but you might pass up that black box on the way. So it's best to run the route that you have in the cave system to get from wherever you start off to wherever the Dreadnought is at. Now, because the region has all these vines, both permanent ones plus the little ones that if they take any damage, they'll disappear for a little bit and then grow back. Also means you want to keep your eyes open for any stabber vines and, of course, any cave leeches, which you can find on almost any stage, but certainly keep your eyes open. Now, the Dreadnoughts, of course, are the boss-like creatures of Deep Rock Galactic. This time, we got the twins, the Lacerator and the Arbalest. They do not have a shielded stage, but they do go invulnerable when they burrow. And if you damage one too much, they will share health, like you just see there. So they'll gain their health back. So try to keep it more or less even, if at all possible. If not, it's okay. But just know that you're going to be using a little bit more of your ammo in order to take them out than you would otherwise if you were trying to keep it more or less even between the two. Now, the Arbalest likes to keep the distance from you, so it can just lob these big explosive loogies at you, and the other one, the Lacerator, likes to get up close and personal with its own little flamethrower. And then we also got the Glyphid Dreadnought. They were relatively close to each other, so that made it a little bit easier, at least in terms of going from one to the next. And if you've already done the black box, so that makes it a lot easier. Make sure that you're keeping your eyes open for exploders so they don't show up right behind you and explode on you, take you out. One exploder will take all or most of your shield. 2 will certainly take a chunk off your health. 3 and you're likely to not see tomorrow. So make sure that you are keeping your wits about you and keeping your eyes on a swivel. Now, the Glyphid Dreadnought has the immune phase, the shielded stage, and a damage phase, like most of the Dreadnoughts. So do some damage as quickly as possible when you get to the damage phase, so that you're not spending a lot of your precious ammo on taking out the shield, and of course the little swarmers that it pops out after a little while. But once you have the black box done and the dreadnoughts, it's time to call in the drop pod and make your way out. Now, this is a good time to point out that the deep dive is a 3-stage raid-like environment where you can play by yourself with your buddy Bosco, and it's completely doable, or you can play with up to 3 other players, either pre-made or match-made. So you can match-make the deep dive and go in with 3 other people if you don't want to try to do it by yourself. If you're doing it by yourself, just know that it will likely take a little bit longer. You can do the deep dive very quickly if people know what they're doing. I would say within 30 to 35 minutes for most deep dives. And if you're doing it solo, it might take you an hour or more. But your mileage may vary. It just depends on what the modifiers are, what the conditions are, and how good you are at reconnoitering the cave, for the black box, for gold and nitra, etc. Now, if you do get to the drop pod before the mule, you'll have to sit there and defend the area or run around, whatever works out for you best, until the mule docks with the drop pod, and then you can get on to the next stage. So it's really up to you, your play style, and what the other people in your group are doing. Do be sure that you're keeping your eyes open for those exploders. So don't have everyone all bunched up together, because that's a good way for an exploder to surprise you and take out your entire group. So that's it for stage number 1. On to stage number 2.
Initiating launch sequence. Deep Rock Galactic thanks you for your good work. Drop pod will leave with or without you.
Alright, stage number 2 of the deep dive has no modifier, which is great because exploder infestation was a lot. But this time around, we've got Morkite and mini mules. So keep your eyes open and ears open for those mini mules. You'll see a green pulsing light, and of course you'll hear it beeping when you get close and are looking in the correct direction. So while you're looking for the mini mules, keep your eyes open for gold and nitra. Gold, of course, will get you more credits at the end of the deep dive, and nitra will keep you flush with ammo and health throughout the deep dive. Now this time around, even though there was no modifier, it kind of felt like there was an unofficial modifier of Acid Spitter, as there seemed to be a whole lot of them throughout the level. So do keep your eyes open for those. Those guys do an inordinate amount of damage over time. So they don't do a whole lot of damage, but you're getting hit over and over again just from one shot over a few seconds. Now, while you're looking for golden nitra, you also want to look out for that Morkite, which is the gray blue glow that you'll see around the level, even when there's no light near it. So unlike golden nitra, which you necessarily won't see unless there's a light close by, Morkite you'll be able to see as long as you're close enough. really tough when you're in a tight space and trying to take out a dreadnought, unless you have something that over penetrates, like the hand railgun that I was using, or something like flamethrower or cryo cannon. And of course, this region is known for stabber vines, so keep your eyes open for those.
Drop pod has arrived. Retrieving the mule.
But once you have the mini mules taken care of and all the Morkite, which you'll want to keep your eyes open for, call in the drop pod and make your way out. Now do know that everything carries over from one stage to the next. That includes grenades, traversal tools, ammo, health, as well as what's in your pocket. So if you picked up some gold or nitra, but everything was getting a little bit too hairy and you just had to get on the drop pod real quick, you can still carry that over from one stage to the next. Just make sure that you drop it in before the end of stage 3 if you want it to count. So if it gets a little bit too hairy, you don't have to worry about dropping it into the drop pod or the side of the mule. You can just wait until the beginning of the next round and then drop it in at your earliest convenience. And of course, it feels like a mad dash going back to the drop pod, as there'll be swarms of enemies that'll be coming after you. So make sure that you're keeping your fellow divers alive. If you have a driller, they can make a tunnel for everyone. Otherwise, you can follow the mule back, whatever works for your team. And if you have 4 people in your team, I would say, just as a general rule, when everyone's getting about 50% empty or full, depending on how you see it, call on a resupply, and everyone can get one of those pods and get back up to full. If you're low on health, that's another good time to get a resupply, especially if everyone's low on health. And if everyone's running out of ammo, then you may need 2. If there's only 2 of you or only you, it's not a big deal, because one resupply, if you're solo, is good for refilling from 0 to full twice. So you might end up kind of wasting some of your resupply if you're doing the solo. But it's always better to have more nitra and more ammo than you necessarily need. If you follow the mule, you'll be able to get on the drop pod right away, because it'll dock and then the door will open. If you get there first, then you'll have to wait a little bit, or maybe a lot, depending on how quickly you get to the drop pod compared to the mule. But once the mule docks, you can get in and get out. Move on to the next stage. On to stage number 3. We're done with stage number 2. Let's go. On to the final stage, the 3rd stage of the deep dive, and it is a doozy. This time around we have low oxygen, dreadnoughts, and that's right, more Morkite. So the dreadnoughts, just like before, they are the boss-like creatures, and we got the twins once again. There are actually 3 different dreadnoughts you can get at this point. And the Lacerator and Arbalest are interesting because they are highly mobile throughout the stage, since they can burrow and then pop up somewhere else. They usually don't go too far from one of the deep divers. So one of the dwarves has to be at least relatively close to where they're at. They won't pop up on the opposite side of the level. Now, because you have low oxygen, you need to be close to each other, and you need to be close to the mule or a resupply station, because those are the only places other than the drop pod that are going to have oxygen for you. You see the meter on the right hand side. Once it gets to be about halfway, you better start looking for where you can get more oxygen, as you only have about a minute total before you run out, and then you'll start losing health rather quickly. And with dreadnoughts, it is doubly important to make sure that you're keeping your oxygen tank full when you can, because they will try to bump you out of your comfort zone. If you don't have a gunner, then you don't have a shield to push them away. So you'll have to kind of run around, have a resupply pod, maybe in one section have the mule and another, so that you'll always have kind of two places that you can run between in order to get oxygen. Now hopefully by this stage you have plenty of nitra built up so that you can call in a resupply whenever you need it, and it might be when you need oxygen. So I would say probably don't be more than 50 meters at most away from your other members, so that you don't come into a situation where everyone needs oxygen. They're all scattered throughout the level, and everyone's calling the mule and no one can get it because the mule is trying to go between 4 different players. So you do have to communicate and, you know, stay within each other. Let people know what you're doing, even if it's just using your laser pointer.
Objective completed.
Now once you have all the Morkite and the dreadnoughts taken care of, call in the drop pod and make your way out.
Pod has arrived.
Aside from the credits and the experience that you get from doing the deep dive, of course you're wanting those matrix cores, which gives you weapon skins, cosmetics, and of course weapon overclocks.
Nitro's been with
But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check us out on social media, and thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And we'll see you next time.
Stand back. Supply pod inbound.
Go restock. Let's get out of this boys. Time to restock. Have to wait for flare recharge. Come on. Shields, we have to leave.
The mule has docked. Initiating launch sequence.
Like there's no tomorrow.
Good work. We're pulling you back in.
We rock! Rockety rockin' stone!
PlayStation